Welcome back to On the Fly. Today we're taking a trade between the Washington Capitals, Boston Bruins, and the Minnesota Wild. So the Capitals do receive Craig Smith, a 2023 first, a 2025 second round pick, and a 2024 third round pick in exchange for Dmitry Orlov at 75% retained and Garnet Hathaway. Then there was a sort of a more deal between the Boston Bruins and Minnesota Wild, where you have Svetlakov, who's basically an entry-level contract, drafted out of Russia, 2017, sixth-round pick. Probably won't amount to much in Boston. Don't really have to worry too much about him. But the real kicker in this deal was the extra 25% retained on Orlov's contract, which the Wild did pick up in exchange for a 2023 fifth-round pick. So this deal is quite the deal for Boston. I was extremely excited to hear about it, being a Bruins fan. I was jumping out for joy hearing that the Bruins finally made their move. We've heard plenty of rumors around. We went from Chychrun to Gavrikov, back to Chychrun, back to Gavrikov, and then finally Orlov became hot talk, and all of a sudden Boston's jumped on it. So Orlov and Hathaway, I think, are going to be two excellent pickups for the Bruins. You have Orlov probably going to serve in Matt Grzelcyk's role, so we'll see sort of what goes on there, because now Boston does have four left shot defensemen. With Forbort, you have Lindholm, you have Grzelcyk, and now you have the recently acquired Orlov. So we'll see if there's another trade there. There's been plenty of rumors going around that Boston's not quite finished yet. Zaboril's still yet to be traded. I'm expecting him. Mike Riley's another one who has a pretty hefty contract that I expect to also be moved. So it's going to be interesting to see sort of where Boston goes with this. I know there's plenty of different options. Boston, in terms of what they need to work on, there's not much there. You could argue sort of another winger. Hathaway sort of fills that role, in my opinion. So I'll be curious to see what they go after, whether that's a big piece, whether that's a little minor piece, maybe another depth move, just to clear cap. It's going to be very interesting to see what Boston does moving on here. A guy like Puljujärvi, who's really, really cheap, but he also has that hefty contract. It'll be interesting to see how Boston moves around that. But with that being said, as for the Capitals, I think this is sort of where you can see them moving towards the end of this deadline. They got rid of two of their big assets with Hathaway, and you got Orlov. So it'll be interesting to see if Washington makes any more moves headed alongside here. I don't see them making too many more. There might be another one or two guys that could go, but at the same time, I don't expect too much from the Capitals. I think they've made their moves heading to the deadline, and they got quite the value. You get first pick, second round, third round pick, especially in a loaded draft class with the first. Never a bad sign. You get a guy like Craig Smith, who is going to provide quite a bit of punch for you. Just unfortunate with the contract. The only reason why he didn't really work out in Boston was that he was sort of a cap killer in a way. So be curious to see sort of how Smith does well out there. He's on his final year, $3.1 million. Coming to a UFA status. We'll be curious to see how they do. All players in this deal were on UFA ending contracts, so I'll be curious to see whether Boston can keep Orlov. Orlov, I'm not entirely sure about. Hathaway, I do, however, expect to re-sign in Boston. Local kid. Wouldn't be surprised to see him stick around. He plays the Boston role, the Boston style, very much like a Marchand. I expect him to slide in sort of third, fourth line spot. Don't necessarily see him playing top line minutes, but at the same time, he's going to be a grinder. He's going to fit the Boston play style, especially the way they're looking right now. I think Hathaway is going to fit in quite nicely. Orlov, as I said, I sort of see him on that second line, maybe third line, depending on the night. I expect Grzelcyk to either be traded. I think Grzelcyk has quite a bit of value. I think he's probably going to be the piece that's going to be moved. We'll be curious to see sort of where he goes, whether that could even be in a Chychrun trade. I highly doubt it. Don't take my word for that one. But with that being said, it really could be anything. Boston doesn't have too many weaknesses right now. But at the same time, plenty of time for that to change. I know they're shopping around right now. I expect at least one more move from Boston before this deadline's over. Trying to get rid of Mike Riley. Jakub Zaboril is another player who I'd expect to move. And I'd also probably expect a guy like Matt Grzelcyk or even Derek Forbort to be moved. I don't necessarily think Forbort will be the piece, but at the same time, definitely could be. And for the Capitals, sort of not too much to talk about there. The Wild, they've been taking on cap. I've been impressed with the amount of picks they've been able to pick up, considering that they are still looking at least like a playoff contender. Sort of right on the outs, could make a move. Be curious to see if they actually make their own moves or if they just keep taking on cap. We saw I didn't even have to move them this time because the last video I made was on the Ryan O'Reilly trade, and they're in the exact same spot for basically the same pick. Instead it was a 4th. So it's very interesting to see sort of the Wild taking on all this cap, eating it up. Don't necessarily see them making too many more moves. I may see them take on maybe another contract here or there. But with that being said, we'll jump right into the trade grades. I'm going to give Washington an A. I think it's a very good trade for them. You get a 1st, 2nd, and a 3rd for players that probably might have left at the end of the season. Always good to get something of value when you're not going to get anything back. For the Bruins, I'm going to give them an A+. I think they addressed their needs quite thoroughly. They got their 3rd, 4th line right winger. They found a way to offload Craig Smith with his bad contract. Gives them some flexibility to move around as they move towards the March 3rd deadline. You also get a very nice left side defenseman, which they much needed, that play that 2nd line role. Orlov's going to fit that quite nicely, so I think they get the A+. And lastly, the Minnesota Wild, of course, get the A+ once again. And I've been very nice the last little while. A lot of good trades in my opinion, so we'll see if there's any bad ones as we head towards the March 3rd deadline, so make sure to check back. But with that being said, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you really like to consider subscribing, tell all your friends and comment down below your thoughts on the trade. Until next time, see you.